Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel. I do have my coffee nearby. Just need to go heat it up because as I've been sitting here talking about books and those various sorts of things, I have let my coffee get cold. How dare me? However, we're going to go ahead and dive into this book before I go heat this up, and it is Notorious Virtues by Alwyn Hamilton, and it is the Notorious Virtues #1. I actually read this book in about 2 sittings. I started it yesterday and finished it today, which I know that sounds like a lot, but yeah, I didn't do anything yesterday, but really just bed rot, and it was glorious. I love being able to do that, even though I don't do it very frequently, because sometimes my brain just loves to tell me all the things that I need to do, like laundry or dishes or vacuuming. And yesterday I was able to put my own mind at ease because I did all of that on Saturday. So let us dive into this particular book, Notorious Virtues, and see what we think about this magical competition. A glamorous media darling, a surprise heiress, and the magical competition of a lifetime. At 16, Honora Nora Holtzfall is the daughter of the most powerful heiress in all of Wallstead. Her family controls all the money and all the magic in the entire country. But despite being the center of attention, Nora has always felt like an outsider. When her mother is found dead in an alley, the family throne and fortune is suddenly up for grabs, and Nora will be pitted against her cousins in the Veritas. Okay, that's the name of the competition. The ultimate magical competition for power that determines the one family heir. But there's a surprise contestant this time, Lottie, the illegitimate daughter of Nora's aunt. When Lottie's absent mother retrieves her from the rural convent she's been abandoned to, Lottie goes from being an orphan to being surrounded by family. Unfortunately, most of them want her dead, and soon Nora discovers that her mother's death wasn't random, it was a murder. And the only person she can trust to uncover the truth of what happened is a rakish young reporter who despises everything about Nora and what her family stand for. With everyone against her, Lottie's last hope is hunting for the identity of her father. But the dangerous competition and her feelings for Theo, one of the Holtzfall sworn protectors, turns her world upside down. So, if you like not sci-fi, but fantasy with a little bit of romance and a little bit of backstabbing. There is a magical competition, so it's not dark academia, but we need some sort of genre for like these magical competitions, because you have it in Hunger Games, or you have it in like the Divergent series, where you have these magical kids pitted against each other to vie for a some sort of elite title or trophy, or just survival in general. And even though Lottie and Nora both have a couple more cousins as part of this competition, we do focus mainly on Nora and Lottie. So I'm just going to tell you right now, first off the bat, that I was a little bit not on Nora's side forever. She comes off so incredibly snobbish and entitled, and that's my personal thoughts on Nora. So the competition only happens for the Holtzfall family, and so previously, when the competition was held, Nora's mother was the champion. She was the winner, and I think her name was Verity, and she is ultimately killed. Well, they say it was a mugging. They say that it was her jewelry that spurred the person to, mug her and for her to pass. Well, Nora, in her I don't want to say her quest to find justice, but she discovers a discrepancy in some pictures that reporters have taken. Because one reporter took some pictures, and in his pictures, her mom was wearing jewelry. However, in most of the other reporters' pictures, she was not. And so that really gets Nora thinking, because if this was a mugging, how did her mom still have jewelry when she's laid on the ground. So, just kind of throwing that out there. So that tends to be one of these driving forces for Nora, because her mom won. Nora should have been the next heir to this family. Her mom was the heir, and then when her mom passed, it was going to go to Nora. Well, now that her mom has passed, it goes back to the family of aunts and uncles and all of their children. So now Nora has to compete in this Veritas that she must with her cousins. And she hates it because she thinks she's entitled to it. And I think that's one of the reasons that I disliked her so much, is because this level of entitlement that comes with it. She very much does present herself as a prissy butt in my personal thoughts. And I'm trying to be as nice as possible when I say that, because her arrogance throughout what I would consider most of this book is just astounding. Well, then we meet Lottie. And Lottie, we first meet her in a convent. She has been abandoned to a convent where supposedly her mother didn't want her. And so I was a little conflicted by that, because just as soon as Verity Holtzfall is kind of killed off and the competition opens back up to the cousins, the mom calls for her daughter to come back. She's like, okay, go bring my daughter back to me. I need her to be part of this competition. Well, the family had no idea this daughter actually existed. No idea. 17 years have passed and nobody knew that, I think her name was Grace. The Aunt Grace, who supposedly had no children, did have a child. And her name is Lottie. Well, apparently it's actually Adeline, but she goes by Lottie. And so I'm pretty intrigued because now I didn't tell you when this book is due out, but it looks as though, let me see real quick, this book is being released April 1st of 2025 and is approximately 320 pages. Like I said, I read it really fast in 2 days-ish, and I was intrigued. I was very intrigued because you do have an atmosphere of fairy tale-esque happening in the background. There are a couple what I would call interlude chapters which reference a sort of fairy tale of a woodcutter and his wife in the woods and how this Holtzfall family came to gain their power. The woodcutter kind of stayed his hand to save a tree that an immortal being kind of said, if you'll save my tree, then, if you clear a field, clear some trees around your house, then that area will be protected. And so thus his axe becomes magically imbued and he gets some abilities, and that's where the Holtzfall line is supposedly starts. I think his name was Honor. And so everybody in this book really does have these virtuous sort of names like Grace and Mercy and Persistence and whatever. But Adeline doesn't really fall in that category. But Adeline, her name, is supposedly the name of that first wife or the wife of Honor, the guy who really established this, made the deal with the immortal. And I don't feel like that's a spoiler. That's just what I said as part of kind of an interlude chapter that happens every couple of chapters. There's kind of an interlude fairy tale type chapter that happens. But it seems as though they're Notorious Virtues. And this is where I think the title makes a lot of sense, is each of these characters is very cutthroat. And, well, except for Lottie. I will say I think she's just really happy to not be in the convent anymore, even though the convent pretty much told her that she was a terrible person and all this sort of stuff. I don't think she was a terrible person. They pretty much reported to her grandmother that Lottie was always belligerent and dishonest and just kind of all in all just a horrible type of person. But the thing is Lottie seems to be the only one that's actually a pretty good person, because everyone else in the family is really much really just dog poo. They are just not good people. They are very cutthroat, conniving, and yeah. So if you're supposed to be the most virtuous going through this forest in order to complete this competition, none of these characters are really doing a very good job of kind of making I guess you could say, a good name for them. Um, I like the weaving in of kind of this dark fairy tale, kind of that woodcutter fairy tale, and how it lends back to kind of the present day in their world. Um, but I I wanted to I wanted to punch like half these characters. Like I really there were some points where I just was like, am I supposed to actually like cheer for these people? Like am I really? Like do I even really want any of these people to end up the heir to this particular power? Because whoever wins actually absorbs all the power of the losers. And so that's a whole thing too. That's part of like the deal, is the person who wins this competition is the one who pretty much takes all the power for themselves. It's not really voluntary, it just happens. It's just part of it. And it's a little tropish to kind of have this hidden illegitimate heir sort of thing come into play. I mean, it's very much tropish when you're kind of like, oh no, the lost heir, whatever are we going to do? But pretty much everybody in her family, like, they know what they want to do. They want to off her so she doesn't get to be part of the competition. Nora and her little love interest, August, which is very funny, because he really is like the spunky journalist, and she is more of like the debutante in her like kind of gowns and such. Their relationship is kind of cute because they are so very much the type of couple that teases each other mercilessly in like neither one really gets the upper hand on the other because they're so well balanced in their personalities. Now someone else just kind of mentioned that they feel like it has kind of a roaring 20s meets modern twist. I'm just not sure if I really like roaring 20s-esque. I don't know. I don't think that's what I was getting. I think I was kind of picturing more like that debutante world meets like modern fantasy, I guess. I hate that we always have to kind of focus on like these well-to-do people, and then we just throw in like a regular person and we're like, okay, go ahead and survive, regular person. Because everybody's scheming except for like Lottie, and really Lottie is just so concerned about, she wants to know who her dad is. And it feels like even her mom, Grace, is using her as a pawn. We do have a cliffhanger ending, so we're gonna have to wait to see what happens like at that point, because we're gonna need book 2 in order to move forward. Anyway, I don't really like when we have cliffhanger endings. I prefer a book that goes ahead and finishes this train of thought, and then we're able to wrap that up and move to the next thing. There's plenty of ways to do that without having cliffhangers like that mean we have to wait for who knows how long till we get to the second book. But I am very interested in it nonetheless. Is it perfect? Nah. But I was very captivated. I was a captive audience with it when it came to this, because I like these magical competition books. I do enjoy, maybe not so much like the books like Battle Royale. That is a dark magical competition